Charged with bribery, fraud and breach of trust. Today's Israel's Prime Minister took the stand in Tel Aviv courtroom, testifying for hours. Benjamin Netanyahu said he was astonished by the injustice of being put on trial and that he was being hounded because of his security policies. The corruption trial is the culmination of 3 separate investigations. And if Mr. Netanyahu is convicted and it's upheld on appeal, he will have to resign. CNN's Jeremy Diamond is at the courthouse for us. Jeremy, good to see you. We know there were no cameras allowed in the courthouse. Give us a sense of what you're hearing.
Yeah, no cameras allowed during the Prime Minister's testimony, but we did see images of him entering that courtroom initially, shaking hands with his supporters, including several ministers in his government who attended the hearing as a show of support. What followed was, first of all, a historic moment, the first time that a sitting Israeli prime minister has testified in his defense in a criminal trial. And what also followed was a series of diatribes by the Israeli prime minister against the media, against former President Obama, talking about foreign policy, talking about a range of issues, and ultimately kind of circling around to the notion that he views the charges that are being leveled against him effectively as baseless allegations. Now, what are those allegations? Because it is important to talk about that. There are 3 key charges that he is facing: bribery, breach of trust, and fraud. The most serious of the cases is case 4000, which involves an accusation of bribery, alleging that he provided or that he offered regulatory benefits to a wealthy media mogul in exchange for more favorable media coverage. Now, the Prime Minister is also accused of receiving lavish gifts, hundreds of thousands of dollars of cigars, champagne, and jewelry. All of these allegations he denies, and he denied them in court today. This is also an extraordinary moment, of course, also because this is happening during wartime. The Israeli Prime Minister will be testifying not just today, but over the course of the next several weeks, as much as 3 times a week, 6 hours per day, as he still goes on to carry the duties of Prime Minister. And this is a trial, we should note, that has hung over the Prime Minister and really hung over this country in many ways for more than 4 years. We don't expect a verdict to be reached anytime immediately, but once it is, if indeed he is convicted, he could face up to several years in prison, and he would also have to resign as Prime Minister.
Yeah, Jeremy, and of course, Benjamin Netanyahu has a lot of fronts that he needs to be dealing with as well. In the meantime, we're seeing more evidence of many Israeli airstrikes inside Syria. What more do we know? I mean, what we're hearing is military targets, chemical weapons targets. We know that the IDF has moved within the buffer zone by the Golan Heights. Give us a sense of what's going on.
Yeah, the Israeli military has been carrying out extensive strikes inside of Syria, targeting specifically Syrian military capabilities, taking advantage of the power vacuum, effectively, that has emerged in the downfall of the regime of Bashar al-Assad. We know that they have been going after chemical weapons stockpiles. They have been going after various types of missiles in the Syrian military's arsenal. There were reports today of a naval base being hit, as well as images of helicopters that were destroyed, purportedly in an Israeli military strike. And there's the Israeli government is making clear that they are taking these strikes at a moment of opportunity. And what they are also doing is that they have sent Israeli troops into Syrian territory, into that buffer zone that has seen neither Israeli nor Syrian troops occupy positions there for more than 50 years now, and they are actually going beyond that buffer zone as well. The Israeli defense minister said that they had captured several strategic points outside of that buffer zone in Syrian territory. They say it's designed to protect Israel at this moment of vulnerability from a security perspective, of uncertainty in terms of who will actually emerge in governance in Syria and what kind of neighbors they will be to Israel. But there are reports of Israeli military personnel as close as 25 kilometers away from Damascus. The Israeli military has insisted that they are not that close, that they are not marching on Damascus by any means, but merely trying to secure their border. The Israeli foreign minister also said that these were temporary steps designed to shore up the security situation, again, at this moment of instability. But certainly a lot of questions about how much longer Israel is going to be able to carry out these strikes before the kind of international condemnation reaches a higher point, and also the extent to which the new rebels who have taken down Bashar al-Assad and who are preparing to govern Syria, how long will they tolerate this? Obviously, they have their hands full with trying to assemble a government and shore up their position inside of Syria. But there is likely to come a point where they will no longer tolerate these kinds of Israeli strikes on military capabilities that they are very much inheriting.
Right, so Jeremy Diamond, thank you so much for breaking that down for us. Now, the Middle East remains very much on the mind of the Biden administration. We're hearing from sources that the Biden White House hopes for a ceasefire in Gaza before Donald Trump is inaugurated next month. And it's working with officials from the incoming Trump administration to try and make that happen. In the wake of the recent ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon, talks towards a Gaza deal have quietly resumed. CNN's Alex Marquardt joins us now from Washington. Reviving of these talks vital right now. It's a race to get those done before the Trump administration comes in. But please tell us and give us some idea of how Biden White House is coordinating with the Trump team.
Well, Eleni, there are, of course, a wide range of issues that President Biden and President-elect Trump disagree on. But on this, they agree. They would both like to see the war in Gaza end with a ceasefire, for those hostages to come home, for more aid to get into Gaza. And they would both like to see this happen before Trump is inaugurated on January 20th. And so sources tell my colleagues and me that there is a significant, notable degree of collaboration between the Biden and the Trump camps. This is still being led in a large way by the Biden team, the White House official Brett McGurk, who's in charge of the Middle East, the CIA Director Bill Burns. But on the opposite side, on the Trump side, his recently named Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, has been coordinating with the Biden administration, and they have been talking a lot about how to get this deal across the line. Now, after the ceasefire was struck between Hezbollah and Israel, and the war in Lebanon essentially ended, the Biden administration felt that there was an opening, an opportunity to refocus on Gaza, to get a ceasefire there, thinking perhaps that Hamas might be more flexible, feel increasingly isolated. Of course, the Biden administration has felt for quite some time that Israel has accomplished all that it could militarily inside Gaza. So the U.S. has resumed these efforts in Gaza alongside allies Qatar and Egypt, who have been the principal mediators throughout these negotiations, these failed negotiations for the past year. Turkey is taking on a greater role because Qatar had closed the Hamas office, and so several of the Hamas negotiating team have gone to Turkey. Steve Witkoff, the future Middle East envoy for Trump, I'm told, has gone out to the Middle East on his own trip to both Israel and Qatar, where he discussed the war in Gaza and the possibility of a hostage deal. And again, he is speaking with the Biden administration about their efforts. So it remains to be seen whether they will be able to get this deal done. All the sources who we speak with are remarkably sober about the chances. It has been something that has failed time and time again since the last hostage deal in December of last year. I think, Eleni, there was some surprise that Trump might not want to wait until he is president to end this war and essentially get the credit for ending the war and bringing those hostages home. But someone who I spoke with, who was close to Trump and familiar with his thinking, says that even if the ceasefire deal is struck before he takes office, that he would take credit for pushing it. And of course, he will be responsible for maintaining the ceasefire. And if he's successful, he would take credit for that as well. Eleni.
Yeah. Alex Marquardt, great to have you on the story for us. Thank you so much.